Hi, my name is Regan. I'm 41 years old, and here's another snippet of Regan's Random Rant. I started getting sick around 6, 7 years old. I was diagnosed at 9. I self-healed at 36. I would say the most challenging thing about self-healing for me was learning to calm my central nervous system. In order to learn how to calm my central nervous system, I had to learn what it was considering a threat. And then I had to address those threats. This was an extremely hard process because it forced me to look at things that were extremely painful, often diabolical, and I had to get extremely real and honest with myself about what exactly was going on. Now, I was completely unable to do this on my own. I have been in therapy starting at 27 years old. I'm 41 years old today, and I'm still in therapy. Another reason why this was so hard for me to do was because people in my family were not doing it. You see, if there is dysfunction in your family unit, every member of that immediate family is playing their role to keep the dysfunction alive. Not only did I have to learn about the abuse that I had gone through and was still going through with family members, I had to also learn my role and how I was not protecting myself from that abuse as an adult. Another reason why learning how to calm my central nervous system was one of the most challenging things for me to do was because it takes a lot of time. You don't just instantly know what your body considers a threat, what your triggers are, and how to unravel them. I have learned in layers. I learned the people that were triggering me, and it took me even longer to learn why and how they were triggering me. Then it took me even longer to have appropriate boundaries with those people. For me, getting sick starting around 6, 7 years old was because my main caregiver, my mom, is the most fear-based thinker I've known. In addition, she operates out of survival, therefore out of ego, and me being an extremely hyper-vigilant child, I picked up on all of this. The love that she knew, that she then projected onto her children, was conditional and codependent. I was not taught of the personal power that I have. I was not taught of my own strengths or skills. I was taught how to be obedient and how to be a good reflection of her. Everything with my mom always revolved around her. And as a young kid, I didn't really understand that. The older and older I got, even when I would have friends come over, there would be tension because my mom would try and take the attention of my friends. I would get upset with her after they would leave, and I would say things like, when my friends come over, can I please just hang out with my friends? And then she would kind of just like laugh at me. Not my fault your friends want to hang out with me and not you. My mom was very competitive towards me. She started accusing me of trying to compete with her for male attention, starting as an infant and a toddler. Now, those are just a few examples as to why I was diagnosed in 2022 with Munchausen syndrome by proxy. Kind of a weird name. Munchausen syndrome by proxy used to be called factitious disorder imposed on another. It's when a caregiver exaggerates or induces illness or injury on someone that is under their care, typically a child, in order for them to gain attention or sympathy or validation for themselves in some form. It's a psychological disorder. It's kind of confusing because at the root of it is obsession. My mom's love would blur the lines between love and hate. I couldn't ever really tell if she loved me or hated me, but I lived for the moments she loved me. My mom isolated me from the rest of the extended family, not just physically, but mostly emotionally, by telling me from the beginning how all the other people in the family didn't like me and why they didn't like me. And she framed it in the form of she was trying to help me and she cared about me. Like, it's not your fault. They just don't like you because you're skinny and they're bigger women and they just don't like skinny girls. And then here 7-year-old me is like crushed that my grandma doesn't like me because I'm thin. Of course, none of that was true, but I didn't know. I used to just shut down in the presence of extended family because I thought they all hated me. And so when I would get in their presence, I would just feel so afraid of doing anything that they could use against me that I didn't even know how to act. So Munchausen syndrome is emotional abuse that involves medical abuse. And that's really the only thing that makes it different than emotional abuse. So my story, anybody with emotional abuse can relate to. And I'd be willing to bet if you have an autoimmune disease, you have endured much emotional abuse. There is some reason why your central nervous system has been stuck on screaming that you are in danger. You see, everything is made of energy, you included. Therefore, you have an energy field that is solely yours. If you come into the presence of energy vampires, users, people that take and take and take and take, your energy field is aware that it is being depleted of its vital energy. It feels threatened. It starts sending you SOS signals. You will be caught in the middle, not knowing what's going on and just feeling the anxiety of that. Especially if you're a child, you're not gonna have the self-awareness to understand. So emotional abuse is centered around psychological control and harm and doesn't necessarily involve doctors or fabricated illness, whereas Munchausen syndrome by proxy is emotional abuse that is a specific medically oriented form of abuse where the caregiver deliberately manufactures illness for their own gain. My illness was very real. However, my mom would just exaggerate it, and really she just made it all about her. I have many memories of being young and at Children's Hospital and my mom just flat out lying to the doctors. Mostly I would just stay quiet, but the times I did try and advocate, well, they always believed the adult. My mom would be very involved when we would be at the doctors. When we were not there, very neglectful. This was due to severe psychological issues of her own. So in Munchausen syndrome by proxy, the abuse is hidden under the guise of concern or care. Abuser often looks like a very attentive caregiver on the outside. But just like I shared with you, my mom was telling me all these stories my whole upbringing about how everybody else hated me. She was painting this picture of she was the only person I could trust. She was the only person that loved me. She was the only person that was ever going to be there for me. But then when I was 14, she left and I was left to stay living with my stepdad, who she also left behind, which crushed him and he went into a depression. We were not emotionally close at the time. I was 14. He was not emotionally there for me during that time, nor do I think he even knew how to be. My mom just left me there. My mom just walked out on us. And this was extremely hard for me to understand at the time. She had spent the first 14 years of my life emotionally abusing me and making me believe like she was the only person who truly cared about me. And then she just dropped me. From that point on, anytime she came back in my life, it was because she was then on drugs and would want me to house her so that she could do drugs. She was never honest about this. It was full of lies and emotional abuse. It was extremely confusing for me. And whenever I would try and talk to my family about it, I was told things like, your mom loves you. I think you and your mom are just always gonna butt heads. There's just something about your two's personality that you guys don't get along. See, my mom was very manipulative. She had most people fooled. Created this pattern to where when I grew up, the only system I knew was how to be controlled. So I found myself continuously in relationships of all different types with some sort of narcissistic authority figure. Because what was familiar to me, the system that I knew was I have to earn love, I have to earn acceptance, and that's how the dynamic works, and that's what makes sense to me. If you put me in a place where I just was loved and everything was calm, I would feel stressed because I didn't understand the system. So my ego would not like it because it needed to understand, it needed to have that sense of control. All of this is my central nervous system. In order for me to heal from the autoimmune, I had to first get out of the system I was in at that time that was controlling me, which at that time was I worked for a church that had a very controlling leader who had taken special attention to me and was overly involved in controlling my life specifically. Very similar to my mom. I had to leave that situation. I had to take authority over my energy field and learn how to protect it. I had to start identifying who are the energy vampires that are sucking my vital energy, and then I had to remove them. And then I had to start feeding my energy love from within. I'm telling you, the hardest part was coming to terms with painful truth. I cannot even explain how hard it is to go from being a manipulated child that thinks you have this amazing mom who loves you, to realizing that they were using you for their own gain because that was the only way they knew how to understand love. Most people, if you try and teach them that's what's going on, they're just gonna reject it because it's too painful to digest. And then you have to process and digest the role that everybody in the family has played to allow that abuse to continue. You see, when my mom first went to prison, the abuse wasn't just exposed and people came to my aid. In fact, my family was upset with me and blamed me for putting mom in prison. I was viewed as this horrible daughter that put my mom in prison. And the thing that's confusing about all of this is I still deeply love my mom. In fact, the more truth about her I have been able to digest and process through the anger and the hurt, the more compassion and gentleness I have towards my mom. Also, the more healthy boundaries I have towards my mom. I would not have been able to heal from autoimmune disease if I was unable to name what I had gone through, feel the emotions of it, express the emotions of it, and then let go and move on. And a lot of people in my world have fought me every step on the way because they were not yet at a place they were able to digest such diabolical truths. For each person, it's hard because in order to digest it, you have to get honest with yourself about what your role has been in your own suffering. What was done to me was not my fault. I was victimized. However, as an adult, as I continued to be the person that only understood how to be victimized, I was still playing that role by not having boundaries with predators, therefore allowing them to victimize me while I continued to just take it and not have boundaries and not call it what it was. I used to have this huge thing where speaking my truth just felt really mean. Somebody could literally be abusing me. They could be physically abusing me, and I would still feel like telling somebody what they were doing was just so mean. One of the big things I've learned through my whole healing journey is just the massive importance of you must believe your own narrative above everybody else's. If you are easy to emotionally manipulate, I honestly don't know how you can heal your central nervous system. Because you need to be able to work in tandem with your central nervous system to caretake for your body, your inner child, and your mental health. All three of y'all gotta work together. And if you are refusing to listen to the truth that your emotions are trying to communicate to you, then you are abandoning yourself. You're not taking authority for your own life. If you have an autoimmune disease, it is only getting worse. You heal when you find your authority. It is your birthright. You have authority over your energy. It is yours to protect. If you continue to let everybody else do what they want with your vital life energy, you're not gonna heal, babe. Look, y'all, I grew up with Munchausen syndrome by proxy. I've been able to listen to my central nervous system, listen to my intuition, calm my body so that it could heal from autoimmune. If I can do it, anybody can do it. That means you.